at UP.
Okay.
Before this.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the service field is unbelievably large, and I think if you think about what Sue has just mentioned, it's sorry. Let me just get to the point here. Net beweeg op. Okay, daar's hy. Kyk my skermpie daar, né? Okay. One of my students asked me once, is it still necessary to know anything about service or IT service management if there's no competition? And I still owe him an answer. Because the funny thing in our country is that if with all the competition there is, the people don't care about service. So what is it all about? Service is a critical thing for any company. If they don't focus on services, especially in the field of how IT can support the business processes, etc., you are in trouble, big trouble. And the companies know that, especially the big ones. Our course forms part of the honors course, a big honors course. There's a lot of modules they can choose from. And the one we are teaching is IT service management. And I really enjoyed your talk, and you really showed me how many big holes are there in our curriculum, because there are so many things to pay attention to, and it's impossible to give attention to everything. But I just want to share with you some ideas and the way we're going about to compile the curriculum and then give it, present it to students. And I will also show you the characteristics involved in the whole thing. But first of all, in terms of prescribed books, I am very glad you mentioned the problem of good books in this field. At this stage, we don't make use of any prescribed books. The nice thing is that e-books become available these days, and e-books, the power behind it is quite good in terms of the fact that you can actually select what you want out of different sources and make one book of that maybe. So that's a possibility. We are investigating that now, but at the moment we're not using any books. We do recommend some books and tell students they can take that out of the library or wherever. And then the next thing is to determine the content of the syllabus for that specific semester is a challenge in a certain sense, because there are so many things going on in the literature. So what we do, we sit together, we determine which articles we want them to read or study.
Can I have the advertisement break?
You're welcome.
Karen is just asking us, everybody, just to indicate the content that you want. And the last one there at the back, for lunch. They need it for lunch.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good. So then we also look at case studies. We give them a lot of case studies. And then the big issue here is, the last 2 points is, we have a very interesting approach, or interesting model, I think. And my one colleague, Dr. Johan van Lochenberg, he came up with this model of teaching the students or facilitating them, and that is to give them discussion questions to prepare for each session. So when the honor students come to the class, they already know what these questions are. They have to prepare for that. So they don't come and sit there and listen to us in terms of giving them a lecture. We are really only facilitating them. And then the last point here, on the right-hand side, the research topics. What we do is we define some topics, research topics for them in terms of the IT service management field, and then we ask them to form groups. Normally we allow them to form their own groups and to do research on these topics and then make a presentation at the end of the semester. Okay. What is important to realize is that there are only 8 contact sessions, which is only a few. You can't do much in 8 contact sessions, 2 hours, 2.5 hours sometimes. So the 8 contact sessions are very valuable for us. Whenever we get together, it should be a very intensive value-adding session for the students. So they come to the class, as I said, no lecturing, rather facilitation takes place. We arrange them in groups when they come into class, and then each group sit, and then we give them the questions. Now normally we give them a set of questions, say 20 for example, and then when they are arranged in groups, we give them each a set of 4 questions out of the bunch of 20. So they are not aware of which questions they're going to have to prepare in class. Because if they know that beforehand, what do? They complete the thing in groups, and then they hand it in class and say, I'm finished, I'm going now. So they have showed us a trick or two there, and then we realized we can't tell them beforehand which groups are going to do which questions. We need to give them that surprise in class, and it works very well. And I must tell you, we give them basically 1.5 hours to sit in the groups, do this, answer the discussion questions, make a presentation, and so on. And normally it's such an interesting discussion, and that we can't. The 2 hours is just too short for them to really go through the whole thing. And especially when the groups are large, we need to manage it well. We can't sometimes not give all the groups a chance to present, so sometimes we pick some groups and give them the opportunity to pick. The big idea behind the group presentations is to allow discussion and debate about these topics. Okay, so after that they get marks for their presentations and class participation. And then the last point here, assignments. We give them this research assignment, which they need to present in at the end of the semester. And then the very last point, NB, there on the screen, as you can see at the bottom, what we realized, what is important in terms of group sessions, is some students don't prepare. They don't come prepared. They sit in the group and they hide there, and other people work for them, and they hand it in and they get a good mark. So what a nice place to be, nobody can control that. So what we do these days, at least 2 tests, they get 2 surprise tests. We give them the questions for the group, but then we tell the students, on your own, you give us answers on those questions. And that works quite well, and we get good results in terms of seeing which students are not preparing well. And it's funny how we had a case last year where we really warned them about a test, and even with the warning, many of them didn't prepare. They just don't prepare. So you get those students who just don't worry or don't care about it. Okay, so this is basically the characteristics of the module, and I just want to show you marks to obtain your semester mark out of 100%. The top side is the class discussions is very important for us. They get the 50% mark there, 50% weight, and then the so-called presentation is 10%, and the article or the research project is a 40% weight, which is quite high. So they need to work very hard there, and we really are very strict with that, and that gives us a 100% weight, 100%. And then the semester mark eventually counts only 40%. When they get to the exam part, which is individually, of course, we take them into the exam room. They get a good, very good, not a good, but high quality, normally a very high quality exam paper, and that they do on their own, of course, and that mark is counts a weight of 60%, which eventually goes down to 100% final mark. Okay, just a very brief explanation or view of what we're dealing with. As I said in the beginning, we try to cover as many topics as possible, but it's not possible to cover everything, of course. So the thing, this was 2012, last year. The first thing we started with there was an overview of IT service management, and with each and every contact session we tried to give them a very nice article to read along with the topic, and that we upload on our ClickUp system. And in that IT service management overview, we're dealing with ITIL a lot. So ITIL is there, one of our basis components. The second one there, can you see, is service sciences. So we just look at that a bit, give them the founding concepts and theories of service science, and you can see at each and every contact session from 2 to 6 we have the questions, and those questions I did beforehand, so if they come into class they need to know what the questions are all about. So the second one is service science, and then the third one, and you spoke about it last time at Takish when you came and made that nice presentation about service quality. What is quality all about, the philosophies behind quality, and how to understand the theories and appreciate quality. So that we pay attention to for one session on its own. And then number 4 is COVID. We pay a bit attention to that and set aside time for that, the whole COVID issue. And then also service level agreements or service level management, also one session for that. And then service continuity, which is very important for us, so we also deal with that. And then at the second last session, number 7 here, we do a bit of relationship management. And you remember the one you talked about last time, contact interaction. We believe they need to know what the dynamics are all about there, and understand and appreciate the theories behind relationship management. And then the last session, I see it's a bit cut off there, the presentation of the research project is the last session, where we then what we normally do, because sometimes the groups are too large, we don't have time to allow all the groups to present, is we pick out the best ones. And then we give a normal mark for the other groups, and those who do get the opportunity to make a presentation on their research projects do get a sort of a bonus mark for that or something, but we need to give them something for that. So then they, at the last session, they do make their presentations on that, and whenever we get, and we normally get very good research projects, it's interesting how much effort I put into that, and sometimes we try to write a little conference article, or even try to publish something out of that. So that works quite well, and they appreciate and enjoy it. Okay, so what we do here, is we normally show them this slide to show them what do you need to do to make a success of this, because we expect a lot of them. There's only eight contact sessions, and in those 8 contact sessions we only have allow them to discuss, to talk about the questions and give answers, but they need to do a lot of work behind the scenes because there's not enough time in the contact session. So we tell them to, of course, to make use of ClickUp and to communicate via ClickUp. And then the most important thing is to download whatever we give them, because the material we give them is available on ClickUp, and it's funny, how difficult it is to convince students to do things, because it is there, but then they will come to you just before the exam and say, but I didn't download it, and I have it now, that kind of thing. So we normally announce it at the beginning of every session, to tell them, please download, I've just uploaded some stuff. And then bring the applicable material to the class for the discussion sessions. They need to do that. Prepare well. And then, of course, the big issue we normally have is the research assignment. Again, the problem is they must start early with that. It's a lot of work. And normally it's difficult. Some students just wait until the last minute and then they fail. And then they say, oh, yeah, but my work's circumstances or whatever circumstances, and we just don't listen to that. So we keep on emphasizing the fact that they need to start as early as possible with the research assignment. And then, of course, what we normally do to make sure that everybody knows what's going on in the research assignment they handed in, is we try to ask a question, because we're giving them the topics they need to do research on, and then in the exam we ask them a question about that topic to see if they know what's going on. Okay, That's basically my brief story about how we handle it at Tukkies. At this stage, I just want to mention that the whole IT service management falls under the umbrella of IT service management, and the students are enjoying it quite a lot at this stage, and many of them are involved in service activities at the working environments as well. So we get very good feedback in the class about problems in the private sector and so forth. Thanks very much.
Colleagues, I'm going to do the same. If there's really a burning question at this stage, I'll allow you to ask it now, but not Prof. Jan. Because he first needs to present what we plan to do. But okay.
I would like to know, but you actually answered it right at the end. Are most of your students already working in industry? Because my experience is, well, my feeling is that it will help a lot if they understand how business works before they do this type of
we are fortunate to have, not all of them, but I think most of them are already in a job in the private sector. Many of them are working in a service kind of environment where they are actually focusing on the end user or the customer or whatever. So that makes life easier because they understand what we are talking about, and they just want to get more theory and more understanding about the more formal stuff.
Prof. Jan, and I'll give the floor to you. I think it's going to be interesting because